As law enforcement personnel, we deal with a number of different types of people out on the street. Some of these people become belligerent, some become active resistors, and some could even become assaultive. Now, whoa, we got a clash going on. We got a clash going on.
Get on the ground.
What's going on?
Start down on the ground. Down on the ground. Do it now. Down on the ground. Arms out. Palms up. Arms out. Palms up. Don't move. Cross ankles. Do it now. Don't move. Sorry for interruption, sir. Let's go. Outside.
No problem. As you can see, what we're about to talk about today plays a vital role in our mission as law enforcement personnel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sergeant O'Connor. I'll be an instructor for this period of instruction, which will be on oil resin capsicum, or what is commonly referred to as pepper spray. The purpose of this period of instruction is to give you the ample knowledge needed on the proven, safe effectiveness of oil resin capsicum or pepper spray. Additionally, this period of instruction is directly related to the period of instruction received on Monday on your use of force, deadly force continuum. It also plays along with expandable baton and defensive tactics, which you've been going through all week. We're going to talk about our terminal and learning objectives, or our conditions and standards. Our terminal learning objective, without the aid of and in accordance with the reference, ALMAR 30598, which is All Marines Message 30598, Marine Corps Order 5500.6 Foxtrot, and Army Regulation 190-14, demonstrate the use of oil resin capsicum. We will do this through our enabling learning objectives. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to define oil resin capsicum, and you can define capsaicin. Next, if I can get a volunteer to stand up and read this slide, please.
Enabling learning objectives continues. Without the aid of reference, you will explain the nomenclature of an OC canister, the spray pattern and method of delivery, the hydraulic needle effect, the employment considerations of OC, the 3 levels of contamination.
Very good, thank you. And could I get another volunteer to read this slide?
Explain physical and mental effects of OC, demonstrate proper grip and stance, explain procedures to secure and handle subjects after contamination, explain general decontamination recovery, safe first aid conditions, explain area decontamination procedures.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about some safety considerations before we move on. For the classroom, there are no safety considerations. However, at the end of the day, when you actually get your live spray, there's a few things we need to be worried about. That is hydraulic needle effect. We got to be aware of our surrounding area hazards, as well as accidental exposure to other personnel in the area. Okay? The risk assessment level is low. However, for the level 1 actual spray, it's a medium, because of the fact that you get a live spray, a level 1 contact. Additionally, we have to be worried about environmental considerations. There are none for the classroom because it's nice and cool in here and it's hot outside. When we go out and get sprayed, the only thing we have to worry about, high winds and maybe torrential rains, which probably is not going to happen today. It's a nice, beautiful day out today. Now, I will teach this period of instruction utilizing the informal lecture method, aided by computer-generated graphics, as well as demonstrators, as you've just seen. Are there any questions about the terminal or enabling learning objectives, our safety considerations, or how you will be evaluated, which is going to be your level 1 exposure at the end of the day? If not, what we're going to do right now is going to roll into a little history lesson. Before we can use anything in the military, we have to learn about its history, right? Right? All right. Just like the Marine Corps, we got to learn about the Marine Corps before we can be a Marine. And we're going to learn about OC. Now, the history of OC dates back to the year 2000 BC. Back then, warring states of China and India and other surrounding Asian nations, what they would do is they would take these little peppers. They would dry them out, they would micro-pulverize them and make them into a fine powder. Then they would take them and place them in like a rice paper type material and make a ball out of them. When they would go into combat, if they got close enough to their adversary, they would attempt to hurl or throw one of these balls into the face or upper body extremity area of their subject or their suspect. When the paper would rip open, the powder would get into their face and give you pretty much the same experience as what you're going to get today, but on not as much of a powerful level. And that's what they would do. When the opponent had the trash in their face, then they would take advantage and move in and kill or do whatever else they were going to do. Now, in 1930, the United States military went ahead and developed OC. But back then, they really didn't find a good way of employing OC. And they also didn't think it was going to be worthwhile to use it. Because back in those days, it was all about warfare. Guns, knives, bombs, explosives. They're like, okay, this is a nice thing to have. Maybe we'll use it in the future. So they put it on the back burner for a while. And it stayed back there for a while. 30 years later, in 1960, the United States Postal Service decided they're going to start carrying OC. Why do you think that was? To stop the dogs. To stop the dogs. And it worked very well. Whenever Fido came running out, when the mail guy was delivering mail, he'd spray Fido. Fido would run away crying. 1974, the first commercial product was developed by a man named Gardner Wickham in his garage in Florida. And what he did is he took his garage and made like a laboratory, took all kinds of different types of peppers, and developed the first commercial product, which was called Cap Stun. Cap for capsaicin and stun because it would stun you pretty good. Shortly afterwards, 1987, the Federal Bureau of Investigation began to study OE resin capsicum for their use. And 3 short years later, in 1990, they adopted the use of OC. And after that, everyone saw, hey, the FBI is using it, why don't we use it? So almost every law enforcement agency in the country, as well as other surrounding nations, use some form of pepper spray as a non-lethal spray or a less lethal spray. And it's been part of their component or their capability set since then, and it's ever growing. Now, today, currently, they are testing products to use against bears, real strong OC products to use against bears, and they're also developing a product for divers to use against shark attacks. Now, whether that's going to be a spray or a powder that can be released from the diver's belt, that remains to be seen. But they're supposed to stop the sharks from attacking because, you know, sharks have that really strong olfactory sense because they can smell blood from miles away. Well, just imagine the OC in the water, it's going to scare them away. Now, we talked about a little bit of history. And during that history, we talked about OC, and most of you are unfamiliar with it. So I'm going to break it down a little bit. We're going to go ahead and talk about the classification. Now, OC is classified as an inflammatory agent, which means when it hits your skin, when it hits your mucous membranes, your nose, your mouth, your eyes, it inflames them. It gives the illusion that it's really hot or on fire. So your body sends blood up into these blood vessels, causes it to swell a little bit, turn a little bit red, and it hurts. And it hurts pretty bad. CS, which we've all experienced in the gas chamber, is an irritant. And it's not necessarily a gas either. It's actually a microfine particle, like a powder substance. We all went through the gas chamber, right?
Yes, sir.
You remember the gas chamber? That was some fun stuff, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Who got hurt in the gas chamber? Who felt really bad after the gas chamber? Come on, be honest. It's okay. It's okay. That hurt me really bad. CN is a lacrimator. That's tear gas. That's what mace is. It causes you to cry excessively. And that would cloud up your vision, cause your eyes to close, and all that good trash. But to give you an idea of the difference between OC and CS, what you got in the gas chamber, OC is 750 times more powerful than the gas chamber. So if you got hurt in the gas chamber, or if you felt pain in the gas chamber, just multiply that 750 times, and you can understand just how painful it is. Rolling on, we talked about the inflammatory agent of OC. Now we're going to define a couple of the definitions here to break it down so you understand why it hurts or why it burns so bad. Now the first thing we have up here is oil resin capsicum. To put it plain and simple, it's the oil of capsicum or the oil of the pepper. Now every pepper that's out there on the market, ranging from the small little green bell pepper that we put in our salads, all the way up through banana wax peppers, pepperoncinis, moving up towards jalapenos, habaneros, salernos, cayenne, all the way to the top of the pepper chain. Each one of these has a naturally occurring oil in them. Now this oil ranges from mild to hot, depending on what type of pungent seeds it has in them, and that also ranges from mild to hot. All right. OC is derived from the cayenne pepper plant, which is a pretty hot pepper. There you go. Capsaicin is the most prevalent ingredient found in these pepper plants. This is what gives the pepper its actual hotness. And we've all had hot peppers before. You know, some of them are so hot, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm pretty macho. I can eat 3 or 4 of these. Other ones, you eat one, you're like, whew, and you're trying to suck down milk and water and eat bread and do everything you can to get rid of the pain, and you're done with that. All right? Cayenne peppers are pretty hot. Now, up to this point, we talked about these definitions right here. We talked about the classification of OC. It's an inflammatory. All right? We had a little bit of a historical overview. All right? Who could tell me in the class when was the first time OC was used, or any type of pepper product? Right there. In 2000 BC, exactly. That was a good answer right there, 2000 BC. What we're going to roll into now, we're going to talk about what I like to call my rule of three. Now, before law enforcement personnel, especially as Marines, we have to meet three preconditions before we can carry an actual product. This, by the way, happens to be a live canister. This is live OC. This is the real stuff right here. So if you get tired, I'll wake you up. Now, we have to meet those three preconditions, and they're real simple. As long as you think about this rule of three, you won't have a problem. One, it has to be non-flammable. Now, you could imagine, just through your wild imagination, why you would want it to be non-flammable. Suspect's getting ready to light a cigarette. He's assaultive at the same time. Is it possible he's got a cigarette in his mouth and being assaultive? Of course. I see people smoking cigarettes, moving furniture, and driving cars. Of course you can fight and have a cigarette in your mouth. So you spray him, and the OC is flammable. What happens? You barbecue your suspect, right? That's not a good thing to do, because you're liable for your suspect, especially at that point. Can't have crispy critters. It won't work very well. The next thing, it's got to be non-carcinogenic. Does anybody know what that means? What is that? It does not cause cancer. You've probably been through this class, haven't you? Oh, okay. You read the book? All right. You're just intelligent? Yes. Right? Yeah, you are. Oh, you're not intelligent? Of course you are. It has to be non-carcinogenic. It can't be a cancer-causing agent. And then three, the capsaicinoid content must fall between 0.18 and 0.22%. Those capsaicinoids, or the capsaicin we talked about, that level of hotness, 0.18 and 0.22. It's got to fall on that spectrum right there. Now, you see it's 0.18 and not 18 points. So you can just imagine there's just a little tiny bit of that capsaicin inside that whole canister. So it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much at all. Next thing, we're going to go ahead and talk about canister nomenclature. Now, before I move on, I want you to be advised that the canister nomenclature we're going to talk about is specifically for the First Defense Mark IV canister. This is put out by DefTech or Defense Technologies. This is the ones that Marine MPs carry on the road. This right here. If you reach down underneath your trays, your desk right there on your computer tray table, you'll see I stashed an inert canister down there. Go ahead and pull that out. They are full, so don't spray them. But I want you to go over, you can hold this canister in your hand and go over while we talk about the nomenclature. You can go ahead and look at it and see what I'm talking about. Up on the screen here, you'll see I've got an exploded view of what you're holding in your hand. Now, the canister itself is that aluminum canister, the main portion where the green label or the red label is. The canister holds the actual product of OC itself, and you can feel it inside. Now, the top black piece, if you look up here on the exploded view, this top black piece, on the very top, you have your actuator safety cover, spring-loaded. Now, the neat thing about this is, and we've all been to the rifle range, so we know about side alignment, side picture, and all that good trash. You'll see three lines in the back of the safety cover. That right there is actually your sight. So when you flip it up and aim it towards your suspect, you can look right through it and still see your suspect, and you have your rear sight and your front sight put together. That's your sighting device. Underneath that safety cover is your actuator button. Sometimes that actuator button is colored red. On these, it's just the same color as the rest of the cap. When you press that, that's what makes the OC spray. On the front of that black cap, you'll see a real small hole. That's your nozzle. That's where the OC actually comes out. That's where the product is dispensed from. What you can't see inside is your valve assembly, your valve stem, and the actual tube. Now what happens is, you lift that safety cover up, you press the actuator button, OC product is delivered up the tube into the valve assembly where the valve stem regulates the amount of product delivered. The OC is then dispensed or employed through this little nozzle and it comes out in stream fashion. And it works off the same principle as a Windex bottle or a glass cleaner bottle that you've got to spray. The only difference is this has a propellant in it, so you just got to press the trigger or press the actuator button. You don't have to pump it. Any questions about this canister nomenclature? All right. Since you can't look at the screen now, what's this thing called? Anyone? Safety cover. All right. Spring-loaded. Spring-loaded so you can't accidentally press this trigger down while you got it on your black here. All right. Before we go ahead and move on, let's go ahead and place those back in your computer trays down there. What we're going to talk about right now, since we talked about canister nomenclature and how the OC comes out of the actual canister, when the OC comes out of the canister, it's got to hit something or somebody, preferably somebody. So we're going to talk about our different levels of contamination when you get sprayed with this OC. Now what you saw in our little demonstration up here, which I know caught some of you off guard, was the actual level 1 exposure. That's OC from the canister right to the face of the subject or suspect. Full-on exposure, direct exposure. That's level 1. Now level 2, if for whatever reason this suspect decided to get a little froggy and started wrestling around with that MP and maybe wiped his face against the MP's face, and the OC transferred from the suspect to the MP's face, and the MP began to feel the effects of the OC, that's a level 2, or an indirect contact. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. And a level 3 is simply this. MP takes the suspect out of the room. They're gone. Then Joe comes walking in here to go empty the trash, and he catches some of it still in the air, like dust in the air. That's a level 3, or an open area contamination. Kind of like there's still a little bit of a dust cloud left up in there. So we understand the 3 levels of contamination, right?
Yes, sir.
Level 1, direct. Level 2, indirect. And level 3, open area. Those are your 3 levels of contamination. When you get sprayed, guess what you're getting? You're getting full-face blast. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to feel what I felt. And I also want you to feel what your suspect's going to feel. All right? Because you need to know that.